most people will think about money in the wrong way. Most people think about earning money to spend money. They don't think about earning money to make money from that money. And if they did, it would be a whole different place, and it certainly improve a lot of people's lives. So, you know, rather than going out and spending 10 grand that you've saved up that you've then got to save up again, you're obviously better off to save your 10 grand, invest it wisely, make it mature into a bigger amount of money, and then spend your 10 grand, and it's only a small impact on what you've grown. And it's all about, I suppose for me, planting those seeds of money which will grow into the money tree that they say doesn't exist, because they always say money doesn't grow on trees. Well, if you plant enough seeds, you'll grow a big enough tree, and you'll be able to live off the fruit that that tree yields. So that's the way I've always looked at it from, I'd say, a fairly young age.
So why aren't we then taught about how to manage and invest our own money?
I guess that's because then you will escape the matrix, and you.
So
will,
maybe there is a matrix.
Well, maybe, but then you become free, and the last thing they want you to be probably is free, because, as I mentioned earlier, the whole society thing is to make you a cog in a wheel. And if you're all different shapes. When you go into school, I remember when I started infant school, I didn't particularly like school. I'd have rather have gone home, but I tolerated it and got on with it. But everyone that started at that infant school was different. Everyone was different. You know, there'd be the kid that played up, there'd be the kid that joked around, there'd be the kid that sat down quietly in the corner. But they mould you into what they want to be the same thing coming out the other end, so that you can serve the system as it is. And that's been the same since Rockefeller invented the schooling system that we've adopted and kept with for many years.
So when you say adapted to serve the system, are you meaning things like pay your taxes and put your money in the bank so that they can lend and invest your money? And
well, they're not even lending your money, are they? They're lending money that doesn't exist, which is a whole new thing. And
it doesn't exist. They print it out of nothing. They charge it to you with interest, and then you give it back to them, and they earn interest on the money that you give back to them. And if you struggle
to pay back the money that doesn't exist, then you're banged up for it, or you lose your property, or whatever it happens to be. So it's a whole game of cards, isn't it, really? It's a big illusion. It's a big smoke screen. And if you go too in depth, you'll find the system, once you start talking about too much of it, will block you.
Really?
Well, I think so, yes.
Well, I mean, I had Nigel Farage on my show, and he's been debanked.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Purely, as I understand it, for his political views. And the person at, NatWest and Coots.
RBS,
didn't like his views, so debanked him. And there's plenty that have been debanked. He's obviously a high-profile one that wouldn't put up with it and went very public about it. So.
Right. So does it worry you talking about it? Because part of me thinks, learn how the system works, learn the smart parts of the system, like leverage debt to buy assets, understand how to get inflation beating assets, keep quiet, go and make lots of money, and then part of me thinks, but there's something that feels wrong about it.
Well, there's definitely something wrong about it, but at the end of the day, I quite often find you can know ins and outs of something that you don't like, but you've got to work within that system. You know, you can beat the wall down, and we all know of influencers that have stood up and shouted loudly, and, you know, various things happen.
You mean Andrew Tate?
Well, I might mean him, I might mean various others, but at the end of the day, you've got to work with the system that's there. I don't think you as an individual can change it very much. And you could say, well, you can stand to be a politician and all the rest of it, but you and I both know that the politicians are just one tier or two tiers down from what's really going on. So you're still not going to change anything.
Yeah. So are you saying then that people are better maybe to self-educate around money? You know, you do a lot of money content. I've written a lot of money books. There's some good people out there that are smart with money. Are you saying that's a good way to self-educate?
I think self-education is huge because no one else is, in the school systems is going to teach you this. I'm not sure in university because I've not been through university side of things, but there's certainly a lack of education for most people around money, and without that education, where are they going to go to? And obviously, self-education can be via us on YouTube, for example, or via a mentor of some sort. I mean, or a business partner if you're going into business. I mean, I would say one of the things I would have liked to have had was a mentor for longer. Unfortunately, he died when I was quite young, the guy who sort of opened my eyes a little bit to what was possible. And also I'd have liked to have a business partner that had I would say sort of like my same views, but brought in a different skill set, probably the money side of it with other things, and we could have pushed forward together. That would have been quite nice. Because I'm quite risk avert,
right.
Which
Are you?
I don't often say.
Yeah.
I am quite risk avert, but I'm not against taking a chance, but it's got to be calculated.
Yeah, so you don't believe in this, go all in, go big or go home, the very American culture around money and
I've
business.
never been one of those that wants to lose his shirt, put everything on the line. I like the fact that we work within a limited company, because that makes it possible for me to take more risk than I probably would. But coming from nothing as well, I think that makes you sort of scared to let it go to a certain degree as well. I know you've come from very humble beginnings as well. I think your parents did run various businesses though, which I think is a slightly different grounding.
But it was always hard for them, running pubs and things like that. I never saw them properly flourish.
But they were hustlers, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I think seeing that hustle culture is what my son sees from me, and that will rub off. And I think because of that, he'll do, exponentially better than what I've done, because he's seen all that from an early age. Whereas I saw, going back to the school system, I saw the school system, I saw my parents working within the system that they'd come out of, and that was said to me, that's what you've got to do. Now, I went into a 9-to-5 job, being a carpenter, joiner and cabinet maker. And I absolutely loved it. I'm not knocking it, because I really enjoy it. I still like making things, as I've mentioned many times. This table,
you made the snooker table cover, so, which you've never taken off.
No, so I do like that side of things. And I went to day release college. I graduated college with leadership awards, first one to do that at this company. And then I got put on making these blooming bins, wooden trash bins basically, and I just had to have it out with the manager. And I said, at the end of the day, how long am I going to be on this job? Because I've graduated, I've got all the best results I could possibly get. I'm better than this. And he said, well, you'll be making these today, you'll be making them tomorrow, and for the next 5 years. And I went, well, sorry, that's not going to happen. So these things are determinations within your life, aren't they? And that was like, you might as well have said to me, get out, but I managed to say that and get out of that situation. But a lot of people are comfortable there, aren't they?
He did you a favour in many ways then.
In some ways, yeah. I think being in a comfortable situation is probably the worst situation you can be in, because you don't then take any risk. If you never take any risk, then that's the worst risk of all, isn't it? Not taking any.
Or as I say, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.
Well, yeah.